What up, meatheads? This is Travis, American Butcher, and this is the Meat Block Podcast. Now, last time I said it was the last time I was recording in that studio. Well, I didn't know when that episode was coming out, and this is the last time I'm going to be recording in the Pacific Northwest Mountain Studio. The next time you hear my sultry voice, the next episode will be coming from the beach, Pacific Northwest Beach, where I'll be moving my studio into the attic of my new house. Man, it's fall. It sure seems like fall snuck up on us. Speaking of segues, that I'm looking forward to it. We're almost in October. It's getting cold. It's raining a lot. Well, it's becoming more Washington here is what it's actually doing. But that's why it's so green, is because of the rain. Why we have such a robust small farm community here in the Pacific Northwest. That's why we have mobile slaughter units. And we did a whole episode on mobile slaughter units. David has worked on one with me, coincidentally. Ryan currently works on one. And I certainly have worked on one. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about them, I'm going to be talking about them. It's just me this week. Sorry if you're pining after those other two cucks, but you'll just have to wait. I'm sure they'll be here doing some episodes while I'm unpacking, and I don't know when my computer and studio is going to be up and running, so I don't know what the following week is going to look like. So in this episode, I'm just going to take time to answer a question that my friend Linda Knutson has asked me about. We need more mobile slaughter units, to at least one or two, to help with all the small farms, and all the places up here are booked almost a year out. I know David's had that experience working even in a brick and mortar slaughterhouse where places are booked about 6 months out. And when I worked in Washington, we would be booked about 4 months out. So I'm going to talk about how we could possibly get more of these units and why there aren't so many.
Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality.
All right. I have the question in front of me. Hi, Travis. Our Cattlemen's Association is very concerned about the lack of custom slaughter. Any idea how to bring another 1 or 2 slaughter trucks? The wait is about 6 months right now. Well, thanks, Linda, for that question. Linda lives in the next county over, and she is the agriculture coordinator for Snohomish County. Actually, 2 counties over. I live currently in Whatcom County and work in Skagit County. And the county line is, I don't know where it is, but she would be in Snohomish County. Now, that's going to change probably by the time you hear this. I will be living in Snohomish County on Tulalip, which is the Indian reservation, but I'll own my own land, which means pretty much a libertarian's dream. But more on that later. Or never. I don't know. So at the top of the episode, I was talking about how all these places were booked so much far out for their slaughtering process. But that being said, there's this window of deadness in the industry, and it's usually starts New Year's and goes until mid-February, March. And if you work in a true cut and wrap facility and not in a grocery store, not in an added value type environment, you know what I'm talking about. That's where people, pick up construction jobs. A lot of places will put people on work furlough and have them, collect unemployment during that time. And sure, there's going to be, a few animals here and there to slaughter during that time frame, but it's not enough usually to keep your whole staff up and running, where the whole segment of you got to make hay where the sun shines is you have to raise animal when the sun shines. It's like, goes hand in hand. And then the fear of having a crew, you have your solid crew, right? And then you're going to tell some of these people who you've worked with for a year that, like, hey, for 2 months, your hours are going to be cut. You're possibly going to go on unemployment. And then you hope that they didn't find anything when, the slow season is done and you could invite them back. Unemployment doesn't pay your full wages. And if you're, used to working 40 hours a week and your hours just get cut to like 30 hours a week and you're living on the fringe of, what you're living on the fringe of your finances, or that your debt to income level would be screwed over if you were to be cut 10 hours a week. It's completely understandable that you as a worker or as an employee don't owe anything to the company, that your job, first and foremost, is you and your family and your livelihood and well-being. And the reason I'm saying this is because I was talking about all these places that are booked so far out. A place I worked in Vermont, places I knew in Southern California, place that David has worked, and multiple friends of mine that they can't make it through a couple of these slow seasons where every spring they're looking for cutters because the people they were working with moved on to other jobs. So having that doesn't allow for growth where they're a small cut and wrap and they can't get their labor force built up knowing that there's going to be this lull in the season. One way a company could bypass this is in the cut and wrap industry. It's not one where you're going to find a job with benefits very easily. And I know, like, you're listening and you're like, well, I do, blah, 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 blah. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about a majority of Americans who make a little bit over minimum wage, who lift heavy stuff, and who are expected to do a lot, and who may not have the passion for it that you do. If you're listening to this, you have a passion for this industry that maybe the average cutter does not have, where you, the listener, may view your vocation as a career and they view it as a job, which is fine. This is an industry that I never planned to be in. I stumbled into it and then it grew like a cancer and then eventually consumed me and made me obsessed. And now I love what I do. And I understand a lot of people I've worked with don't view that way. They'll be like, oh, my friend will, he get me a job making $2 and more than I make here doing easier work. In my poultry processing episode we recently did about chicken, I talked a lot about that, about keeping how difficult it is keeping a staff when you have an overall salary cap, what you could pay people, but yet how many people you need. And built into your program is limitations on how much you could process. So having more slaughter opportunities in rural settings, a lot of people lead that to mobile processing trucks. And this is beautiful for the farm. And it's great. It's less stress on the animal because you're not transporting it. You get to talk to the processor. There's a real personable relationship between the farmer and the butcher and the consumer. Now, it's no secret that slaughter, facilities on a 1-to-1 ratio, slaughterman 1 to butcher ratio, that they could kill more than they could process in a week. So just having more trucks won't solve the cut and wrap issue. We need those brick and mortars to take the animals to and then process. I know that there was a facility up here that was getting a truck online that then would slaughter, do a sanitational cycle and a pre-op, and then the next day process, turn their kill pad in that truck into a cut and wrap facility where they would bring out a bandsaw and a cryovac machine, and they would cut what they killed the day before. In a custom exempt status, this is beautiful. this, in a USDA type environment, this sounds terrible. When this unit was coming online, I was talking to some inspectors that I know, because I know a lot of inspectors. My uncle-in-law is a retired compliance officer for the USDA, and they were telling me that the local frontline supervisor, the doctor, the vet, the big machismo, big douche on site. And the reason I say that is, first time I met him, I was like, "Oh, you're with the USDA," and he corrected me and said, "I'm actually doctor," and then said his name. I'm not going to say it because he may listen. I know some of the inspectors I hang out with listen to the show, and they're probably having a little chuckle at this cuckle right now. But he was saying that with the way the rules are, that he couldn't deny them the grant of inspection. But it was very unlikely that they would successfully pass multiple pre-ops in a row. USDA wants bathrooms, they want all these things to, with mobile slaughter, which are very attainable with farmers. And you could go back and listen to one of our early episodes where we talk about everything you need to run a mobile slaughter unit. But I'm talking about why we need more of them and why there's the lack of them now. And it's because with USDA, there's the regulations. And not only do you have to have a butcher that will stand by you and work that slaughter truck, who is looking forward to when they make that, more money, that sweet spot, when they're making, north of 20. But you also have that person who has to be good with the knife and also be able to drive a huge vehicle, the CDL type vehicle. Now, if you're running, you could have an ag exempt status on doing a CDL type vehicle. I did when I would drive the tractor trailer for the slaughter company I worked for, when I did their mobile, as long as I stayed within the county that it was the ag exempt was applicable for. Since I was in Whatcom County, I could only slaughter in Whatcom County, or drive within Whatcom County without getting the CDL. I think I had about 5 minutes of verbal training before I took that thing on the freeway. And by the time I got to my destination, which was out of Whatcom County, oddly enough, the owner told me to avoid a toll road, and I got to the place. And I ended up with about 10 carcasses off the rail. It's pretty awful and a pretty terrible situation. And so personally, I don't enjoy working on a slaughter truck. I probably wouldn't enjoy working slaughter in general anymore. I get hot very easily. I don't like sweating. I enjoy being in the cold. I'm the type of person that always has one leg out of the comforter. And I've always said it, that slaughter is a young person's game because it's brutal on your body. It's hard. So I don't know if we necessarily need more trucks here in the Pacific Northwest, or you, the listener, if you're listening to this, if you need more trucks where you live, mobile trucks, MPUs. What I would suggest is more mom and pop small abattoirs, cut and wrap facilities, where it's almost family owned, with maybe a local kid or something like that. Then you service your small community where people drop off, and you could do maybe at most 8 beef on a beef day and 20 pigs on a pig day and 40 sheep on a sheep day. And your slaughter crew is also your cutting crew. And that's something that I would love to do and love to have a place like that. I don't have certainly the money to do that. I've designed this with CAD programs many times, and if you want one of my drawings, just let me know. But have it really figured out. And the big problem with this industry, or with any company in general, is that people want to know, how is this going to scale? How are we going to take this and make it bigger and do more animals and do this and that? We have this idea that next quarter should be better, next year should be better. I'm guilty of that. I work for a company that has that built in. But we don't need that if you have a successful business that allows you to make a living and allows a few employees to make a living and service the community. Don't ruin it by getting ambitious. Don't taint it by trying to take on more than you could do and you're cutting lax and all this. Focus on quality, husbandry, and a nice rapport. What I would love nothing more is for the local abattoir to come back, the local slaughterhouse, and not it be in a negative way. Just be like, this is a farming rural community and these animals need to die. And, we have Travis the butcher right up this the street. And we know every year we're on his books for this. And then the 2 towns over, you have David the butcher. And then the next town over, you have Ryan the butcher. And, just these small mom and pop shops. I would like that. I don't know if that's reasonable. So what can you do if you want more availability in your area? Well, there's tons of agricultural grants. I know where I worked in Vermont, the slaughter facility got $50,000 worth of money in grants that they didn't have to pay back, that to help build their facility, to help serve the local community and farmers and things like that. They scaled beyond their means, ended up doing not great work, and then not being able to keep their staff when in the slow season. And they're currently out of business, but they never had to pay back that $50,000. And then there's a labor issue that I talked about people leaving and things like that, but I know people down in Rochester, a plant that's been looking for a GM for over 3 years. And I've had headhunters contact me about positions for the same position at companies once every 2 years because the people that they hired or whatever ended up doing upward mobility and leaving on to the next place. I know there's agricultural schools out there. And I know like UC Davis has a kill floor. Also, like San Luis Obispo, California has a mobile USDA slaughter facility. So if you could partner with an education group where you have ag students or animal science students who run the program with a hands-on, with a great inspector, and then you're guaranteed to have a staff every semester, and you're guaranteed to have farmers who want free to very low-cost processing every semester. And if you're listening to this and you're a farmer, or you want to be a farmer, you want to be a farmsteader and all that, the first step to knowing, like, if you're going to raise animals is 1, where you're going to sell those animals, and 2, where you're going to process those animals. And you should have that figured out before you have any of them. Don't buy the cart before the horse. But in this case, it'd be like, don't buy the cow before the other thing. Quick anecdote, I was working for a place and we had, I think, 500 layers and about like 1,000 freedom fighters. I forget what kind of birds they were. Freedom Rangers. That'd be weird. They're freedom fighters. They were politically motivated, suppressed birds. So we had Freedom Rangers. And once they get to a certain age, I think it was about 16 weeks, they become very aggressive. You want to slaughter them in that sweet spot between 16 and 18 and don't push it really beyond that. And they would, every day when I'd go to move these rolling pins, because we would, they were in rolling pins, and we'd move them like a foot over, like, well, not a foot, but, like 10 feet over. So they had fresh ground to peck, and they would fertilize and pat down the dry pack and all that shit. That there'd be about like, it started off slow, be like 1 and maybe 2, 3 dead birds in there a week. And I was like, what's happening? what was happening is they were getting aggressive and they were riding and pecking and raping and killing other birds. And they would ride on the back of them and peck the back of their heads to the point where you could see like exposed brain on some of them. They're still alive. It was crazy. And the reason this started happening is because the farmer I was working for bought these birds before he had a processor in mind, contacted the processor, didn't like their price, got in with another processor that was booked 4 weeks out, and ended up losing a quarter of his birds, when if he would have just got them with the original processor, would have made that money, saved himself money in the course of not having so many dead birds eat up his profit. Anyway, thanks, Linda. That was a great question. Gave me, about 20 minutes worth of material to talk about. And next time you hear my voice broadcast into your ears, it'll be from Talelo. Very excited about it. And this is the part of the show where I'm going to do a shameless, not self-promotion, but just, it's not even shameless. If you enjoy this show, you enjoy butchery and you enjoy knowledge and learning about this trade, and you want to support me and the show and American butchery overall, then please help the Team Butchers of America GoFundMe. If you are a company and you sell a brand and or service, and you want to help sponsor the team, then please email me. My email is always in the show notes, or contact my team manager at the World Butchers Guild USA on Instagram. And if you're just new to the show and this is your first episode, well, welcome. And what I'm talking about is I tried out for the American team to represent the USA in the 2020 World Butchers Challenge. It's a huge event. It's a global event. The best butchers in the world will be there. I'm still shocked that I'm on the team. But what really separated fine-tuned teams in the past was their practice availability. Now, some of the teams are in Great Britain, Ireland, Spain, and or Italy, just smaller countries where it's more feasible for people to drive, or maybe they work in the same city or the next town over to get together and have these team practices. For us, for my team captain, Danny, and Tia to build this American team, we had to reach to Philadelphia, New York, Austin, and then here, me in the Pacific Northwest in Sacramento. And Craig, I forget what Carolina or Southern state you're from, but we're reaching out all over to get this talent. And what we need help with is organizing practices. And we don't need help organizing practices. What we need help is funding practices, because it's not like an all-star game where we just show up and we need to be fine-tuned. We need to have built-in idiosyncrasies. We need to be able to finish each other's sandwiches. And if you are a brand and or service, you want to help us out, please do. It would help us out immensely. And if you're just a listener and you don't have a company, you want to help us out, then check out the Butchers of America GoFundMe. And that link is in my profile on my Instagram at American Butcher. It's also you could head over to thebutchersguild.com and check that out. All the information will be there. And if you're a company and you offer a brand and or service, I could send you a sponsor doc that goes into it in more detail. And sponsoring us means we may use your knives. We may, use the cutting board. We may use the table. We may use something, as well as having a cash donation. Because right now we need that dollar bills, y'all. Anyway, that's about 4 minutes of that. And thank you for bearing with that. Until next time, keep your knife sharp and live in the market.
Gambled with a man and I won me another. Bought me a gun and I robbed my brother. I'm bad, but I don't care, boys. Gonna be a millionaire. Then I hopped on a ship and we sailed on the waves. Dealt in rum and we dealt in slaves. Left my captain in a salty grave. He's gone, but I don't care. Gonna be a millionaire. How many of you wanna see me dead? How many of you wanna have my head? How many of you just live your life wishing you were me, boys? Wishing you were me. Well, I married rich, a pretty little wife. Brought her misery every day of her life. She slit her wrists with a silver knife. You can't pin that on me, boys. The money belongs to me. Well, I found myself in a good position to buy myself some cheap politicians. Bought myself a big election. That's just how it went, boys. Now I own the president. How many of you want to see me dead? How many of you want to have my head? How many of you just live your lives wishing you were me, boys? Wishing you were me. When you say your prayers down on your knees, ask the Lord, forgive you please. If it crosses your mind, say one for me. 'Cause I know where I'm bound, boys. I know where I'm bound. 'Cause I started out with one lone dollar. Gambled with a man and I won me another. Bought me a gun and I robbed my brother. I'm bad, but I don't care, boys. Gonna be a millionaire. Gonna be a millionaire, boys. Gonna be a millionaire.
I keep forgetting this. If you want to contact David, he is at A Farm Butcher on Instagram. If you want to contact Ryan, he is at Gather and Break on Instagram. And if you want to contact me, I'm at American Butcher on Instagram and Facebook. Also, we have the Meat Block Instagram page and Meat Block Facebook group, which I kind of abandoned because I just like Instagram way better. Because Facebook is kind of a cesspool for terribleness. And I kind of just go on Facebook to be outraged. It's like I'm addicted to it. I don't know. It's weird. But hit me up on any of those platforms, any of us up on any of those platforms if you have ideas for shows, topics. If you just want to say hi, thanks for what you do. Because I truly live off of positive feedback. I love it. I live off a compliment. We got some stuff in the works that it's pretty exciting. And I look forward to having routine set back into my life. A lot happened in this last summer. Just real quick reflection. Went down to Sacramento, gave my all cutting, and made the American team. After that, I went on vacation where the day I got back from vacation, me and my wife decided to put our house on the market with 3 days to do it. It was just crazy with the deadline to be under contract and it's just it was like it was just a faster decision than I didn't think. If you asked me in July if I was going to move, I would have told you no. I would have been like, what? You're crazy. Oh, no. But we had to sell our house and to make this work. And, they say relationship changes, such as divorce, job changes, and moving are the most stressful things you could do. 3 years ago, within the span of 1 week, my wife gave birth to our beautiful son. I started a new job and we bought our first house. And that was pretty stressful. And it puts a lot of stress on your relationship because you're just stressed. And the reason it does is because you're so stressed out and your partner's so stressed out. And then you end up taking that stress out on them when you don't mean to. And if you find yourself in one of these situations, you need to recognize why you're stressed out, why it's not the other person's fault, and just have a honest conversation about like, all right, my emotions are high right now because of X, Y, and Z. And that's just my big takeaway, or I just want you, the listener, to know. It's like, as stressed out as you are, recognize where the stress is coming from. Because like the last 2 months, I failed to mention that my wife owned a house, before we even met. So we sold the house we live in and then her first house to get this new house. So it's very, very exciting. But I was dealing with 3 escrows, 3 appraisals, I think 3 realtors in this shitty deadline. And this podcast is my therapy. That's why I'm talking about it right now. And I get this, that feeling of like the precursors of anxiety attack, where your heart's just like, you're more aware of your heart than you usually are, but it's not your heart. It's just that chemical release that just makes you feel panic, and you have that fight or flight motion and you don't know why. And it's almost like a steadiness. It's just like releasing and releasing and releasing and releasing, and you're panicking and you say, what the fuck is going on, and all this stuff. I've had that consistently for the last, 2 weeks. And I had it yesterday and the day before, and I'll have it again tonight. And my thoughts and insecurities will keep me up, and then I'll have a terrible night's sleep, go to work, kind of just ghost through work because I have so much other shit on my mind with this move. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm excited about that, and I'm excited that I could be present again with my family, you, the listener, and in my career. Take care of yourselves.